everyone. Today I will tell you a story. The story is titled, When Boy Sits Down, Time Slows. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you appreciate me. You can skip this if you don't and oppose. Like this video. Thank you very much. The story begins as follows. Every morning in our small home begins the same way. The alarm rings, the kettle hums, motorbikes murmur outside, and the world insists that the day must begin quickly. Yet none of that truly starts until Boy decides it should. Boy is not a large dog, nor is he particularly majestic. His fur is a warm brown that catches sunlight like toasted bread, and his ears tilt slightly forward as if he is permanently curious about life. What makes him unforgettable is not his appearance, but his rhythm. He lives by a tempo that feels entirely separate from clocks, schedules, and deadlines. On that particular morning, I was rushing. Emails waited. Messages blinked on my phone. A list of tasks floated in my mind like impatient clouds. I hurried to put on my shoes, gulped half a cup of tea, and reached for my bag. Then Boy sat down. He didn't bark. He didn't whine. He simply lowered himself onto the cool floor in front of the doorway and looked at me. His tail curled neatly around his paws. His breathing slowed. His eyes softened. And suddenly, I stopped. Outside, a neighbor called to someone across the street. A distant vendor's voice drifted through the air. The steam from my tea curled upward in delicate spirals I had never noticed before. The house felt warmer, quieter, wider. Boy blinked once, slowly, as if to say, "There is no emergency here." I crouched down beside him. His fur felt soft and slightly warm beneath my fingers. He leaned gently into my hand, closing his eyes with complete trust, as though this simple moment was the most important thing in the world. For 30 seconds, or perhaps an entire universe, nothing moved except the quiet rise and fall of his chest. The rushing inside my mind loosened its grip. The day could wait. And when Boy finally stood, stretched, and wagged his tail with calm satisfaction, I realized that something invisible had shifted. The morning was no longer chasing me. I stepped outside lighter, as though I had left some invisible weight resting beside him on the floor. By midday, the heat had wrapped itself around the neighborhood like a thick blanket. Even the wind seemed to nap. I sat beneath the mango tree in the yard, hoping to escape the glare of the sun while finishing a few notes on my phone. Boy wandered nearby, nose low, exploring the familiar ground as if it were a newly discovered continent. He paused at a patch of grass, watched an ant procession with scholarly seriousness, and tilted his head at the buzzing of a dragonfly. Then, without ceremony, he sat. Not collapsed, not sprawled. Sat, upright and still, as if he had chosen a sacred place to rest. The world softened around him. A leaf detached itself from the tree and spiraled lazily downward. A motorbike passed far away, its sound stretched thin by distance. Somewhere, a child laughed, and the laughter floated like a paper lantern in the warm air. I looked at my phone screen. The words I had been writing felt rushed and meaningless. I turned the screen off. Boy remained perfectly still. A butterfly drifted near his nose. He did not chase it. He simply watched. In that stillness, I noticed things I would normally miss. The shifting patterns of shade, the smell of sun-warmed earth, the faint sweetness of ripening fruit above us. Even my own breathing felt slower, deeper, more anchored. When I sat beside him, he leaned slightly against my leg, not to demand attention, but to share presence. This was not laziness. It was not boredom. It was awareness. Humans often believe movement equals productivity. We hurry, chase, and accumulate tasks like trophies. Yet here was Boy, accomplishing something profound by doing nothing at all. He was fully inhabiting the moment. Minutes passed, but they did not feel lost. They felt lived. Eventually, he stood, shook the dust from his fur, and trotted toward the house as if he had completed an invisible duty. I remained under the tree a while longer, wondering how often life offers stillness, and how often we walk past it without noticing. The evening arrived wrapped in soft gold light. Shadows stretched long across the yard, and the day's heat loosened its grip. I sat on the doorstep, watching the sky fade from blue to lavender. Boy settled beside me with a quiet sigh. He didn't chase passing bicycles. He didn't bark at distant sounds. He simply sat, his body relaxed, eyes half closed, as if listening to something deeper than noise. I found myself matching his rhythm, breathing slower, thinking less. feeling more. The world, which had seemed so urgent in the morning, now felt spacious and forgiving. The unfinished tasks could wait until tomorrow. The unanswered messages would still exist. But this moment, the warmth of fur against my leg, the chorus of crickets beginning their nightly song, the smell of cooking rice drifting from a neighbor's kitchen, existed only now. Boy leaned gently into me, and I rested my hand on his back. He exhaled slowly, trusting the quiet. Time did not stop, but it softened. In his presence, minutes did not feel like currency to spend. They felt like gifts to receive. When darkness finally settled, he stood, stretched, and looked back at me as if to ask whether I was ready to return inside. I realized I was. Not because the evening had ended, but because it had been enough. Living beside animals like Boy teaches us something modern life often forgets. Slowness is not wasted time. It is where connection grows. When Boy sits, he is not escaping life. He is entering it fully. He notices the breeze, the scent of the earth, the presence of those he loves. He reminds us that peace is not found in finishing everything, but in being present for what truly matters. In today's fast-moving world, people rush from task to task, measuring worth by productivity and speed. Yet constant motion can distance us from our emotions, relationships, and even ourselves. By learning from animals, we rediscover patience, empathy, and awareness. Sitting quietly with a pet, walking without hurry, or simply observing the world together can reduce stress, deepen compassion, and strengthen the bond between humans and animals. To bring this wisdom into daily life, pause intentionally. Spend undistracted time with your pet. Breathe slowly. Notice small details. Protect moments of stillness as you would protect something precious. When we slow down, we become kinder, calmer, and more attentive. And like Boy, we learn that sometimes the most meaningful moments arrive when we simply sit and let time soften around us.